There's an entire industry of scouts and draft experts that dedicate their lives to the pursuit of figuring out which college football players are going to be good and which ones aren't going to be good, and in exactly what order of good they're going to be. Needless to say, that hasn't always worked out. There are first rounders in every draft that achieve nothing in the pros. And on the other side of the coin, there are diamonds in the rough in the later rounds that end up in the Hall of Fame. But what about the guys taken just before those Hall of Famers? Players at the same position who went ahead of greatness. Who were some of the guys? Why did it happen? And what did they become in the NFL? NFL draft fails. The next pick was a Hall of Famer. Is coming up right after this. For this video, many of these are later round picks and not the sequential pick before, as teams generally draft on need, not talent, or whatever Matt Millen did. And in all of these cases, the player taken before played the same position as the Hall of Famer later, so clearly the scouts whiffed on these picks. You'll see. So George Kittle isn't a Hall of Famer yet, but he's a stud, and I couldn't resist saying the name Jake Butt. And that being said, George Kittle has safely assumed the mantle of best all-around tight end in the game. It's not much of a mystery why he didn't go into the 5th round, to be honest. Kittle was a late bloomer and was underused at Iowa as a wide receiver. The pick right before him looked like a phenomenal weapon at tight end and might have been a first rounder if not for a devastating knee injury in his last college game. The Broncos took some butt 145th overall, and the Niners took Kittle a pick later. And George Kittle ascended to greatness in the 2018 season. Jake Butt missed his first year recovering from that torn ACL at Michigan, got back on the field in 2018, and tore his other ACL a few weeks into the season. Just to rub salt into the wound, when the Broncos played the 49ers that year, George Kittle put up a tight end record with 210 yards all in the first half. You can't fault a team for taking a first round talent in the 5th, but you can when there was a potential Hall of Famer at the same position still on the board. But unlike a poet laureate once crooned, the Broncos were unable to shake that healthy butt.
Like big butts, and I cannot lie.
Back when the draft went 20 rounds, it took Roger Staubach a full 10 to come off the board. Despite winning the Heisman as Navy star quarterback, Staubach didn't go until pick 129 due to his 4-year military commitment out of the academy. So instead of getting a head start in Dallas, Staubach went to Vietnam, where he served in the Supply Corps. Cut to 1969, the Vietnam War had totally cooled down, and Staubach was able to join the Cowboys as a 27-year-old rookie. The quarterback taken before him was Gary Wood, drafted 109th overall by the rival New York Giants. Wood was 5'11", the proto Kyler Murray, except for one big difference. He wasn't very good at football. The Giants didn't have to wait on Wood like the Cowboys did Staubach. They got to find out right away that he didn't have it, and he proved it by going 1-8 in his first 3 years in the NFL. Wood washed up, and his career was over by 1969, the same year that Staubach's career began. Roger ended up playing in 4 Super Bowls, winning 2 against Miami and Denver, and became revered for his late-game heroics, earning the moniker of Captain Comeback as well as a gold jacket. Wood played an extra season in the CFL and was also inducted into the Hall of Fame, the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Shout out to my tribe.
Do you have anything light?
How about this leaflet, famous Jewish sports legends?
Sadly, Wood died in 1994 in Dix Hills, New York, and out of reverence, I will not be making a Wood or Dix joke. The Bills were humiliated in the 90s by losing 4 straight Super Bowls, but they wouldn't have reached that shame without the contributions of Andre Reed, who they took in the 4th round of the '85 draft out of Kutztown University in Pennsylvania, or is it Kutztown? The pick before, the Minnesota Vikings took a different receiver by the name of George Buster Rhymes out of Oklahoma, and yes, that was his real name. While Andre Reed lasted until 2000, scoring 87 career touchdowns and making 7 Pro Bowls, Buster Rhymes only hung around for 2 seasons, catching 8 passes for 149 yards and 87 fewer touchdowns than Reed. Rhymes went to Canada and ended up winning a Grey Cup a couple years before Reed and the Bills ever made it to the Super Bowl. But the greatest achievement for the former Sooner, of course, was inspiring the name of rapper Busta Rhymes, which was bestowed upon then Trevor Smith Jr. by fellow rapper Chuck D, who told him, "It almost looks like you're playing football when you rhyming, so you should call yourself Busta Rhymes." Andre Reed has yet to lend his name to a great rapper, but he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2014. Call that trading a gold chain for a gold jacket. And for this next one, I'm going to turn it over to J&D Productions, who have a channel that focuses on missed draft picks. Check them out from the link below.
Hey guys, I'm Jackson from J&D Productions. He never lets you know it, but Richard Sherman is one of the best 3 or 4 cornerbacks of the last decade. So why did it take 5 rounds to pick him in 2012? Well, when Sherman joined Stanford's football team in 2006, he was a wide receiver. But by the time he graduated in 2010, he had spent 2 of his 5 years in college as a cornerback after being given the blessing to switch positions by Jim Harbaugh, who ironically got punished for that decision years later. His ball skills as a former pass catcher translated over to corner for Sherman, picking off 20 passes in his first 3 years with Seattle, leading to 3 All-Pro selections and a Super Bowl ring. His most famous interception came against the 49ers' sorry-ass receiver Michael Crabtree, and of course, his former head coach Jim Harbaugh in the 2013 NFC Championship game. After being drafted in 2011, the usually level-headed Sherman was livid that 24 cornerbacks had been drafted before him, saying, "Some of those guys who got drafted ahead of me, I was like, wow, this is ridiculous. When I get to the NFL, I'm gonna destroy the league as soon as they give me the chance." And that's what I've been doing ever since. The 23rd cornerback drafted before Richard Sherman was Utah's Brandon Burton, the 139th pick by the Minnesota Vikings. Burton played for 3 teams in 3 seasons and never recorded an interception before moving on into coaching. To this day, the only corner from the 2011 draft that could be better than Sherman is Patrick Peterson, taken 146 picks ahead of Sherman. So as mad as Sherman was about his draft position, he was probably right, unfortunately for everyone with ears.
Thanks, J&D. Everyone subscribe to their channel. And finally, the biggest draft whiff ever. The Tom Brady draft has been beaten to death. Everyone knows the quarterback's taken ahead of him, but we tend to forget that the man widely accepted as the GOAT quarterback was also a steal in the draft. In 1979, Joe Montana was selected by the 49ers in the last pick of the 2nd round. The quarterback taken before him was Clemson QB Steve Fuller, picked all the way back in the 1st round by the Kansas City Chiefs. Montana became the god of the West Coast offense, the coolest man under pressure, and a 4-time champ. Kansas City's pick ended up winning a Super Bowl as well as a backup for Jim McMahon. He did make his own mark on the NFL. Fuller won 4 out of 5 games the year the Bears won the title. More importantly, he was awarded a gold record as one of the solo singers in the Super Bowl Shuffle. Does Joe Montana have one of those on his trophy shelf? Didn't think so. Okay, let's be real. Fuller wasn't exactly dropping the best bars as a Chicago Bear, and he didn't work out in Kansas City either, but he was eventually named one of the 15 best backup quarterbacks of all time by Sports Illustrated, which is like winning a jiu-jitsu tournament in the white belt division. But the Chiefs could have had Joe Cool instead, about 14 years earlier than they actually had him. You know what I mean. The real question is, why didn't Montana go earlier? Here was an evaluation of Montana from an anonymous scout in 1979. He can thread the needle, but usually goes with his primary receiver and forces the ball to him even when he's in a crowd. He's a gutty, gambling, cocky type. Doesn't have the great tools, but could eventually start. Just about wrong on every count except for the first and last part. But I think Joe isn't phased at all.
Oh, you won't disturb me. I'll be in my room masturbating.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Who knows, the next video you watch might get 10 times the views as this one. I'm 5 Points Vids, and I'm saying the thing.